Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Joe. Hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday evening. And let's have a look. There you go. Okay, yes. So, Dr. Joe here. We've got another great session. And we're going to talk about financial freedom and this whole notion of a financial freedom number. It's a common term, which I've sort of heard on different podcasts and publications. So I want to kind of drill into it today. What is this number, and how do you determine it? And if we get some time, I want to talk about some of the habits that that you could deploy, in terms of helping you get there. So that's the focus today. Is what's your financial freedom number, and the key habits to get you there. So again, let me know who you are, and definitely like to give you a shout out, and so on. So we've got a Q&A session towards the end of the session, about 30, 40 minutes from now. I'll do a Q&A. So if you've got your questions, put them in the chat, and I'll try and get to them, and so on. So again, Dr. Joe on this Wealth Wednesday. What's your financial freedom number? Key habits to get you there. Before we get there, I just give you a heads up on one of my properties. I had a turnover about a month or so ago, and I finally I found a tenant a couple of days ago, and really good tenant, and I'm really excited about moving them in. So maybe I'll produce a video and show you the tenants another time. So anyway, let's get down to it and talk about the session today. So what's your financial freedom number? And what are some of the habits? So, I mean, here's the bottom line. Why are you trying to build wealth? Why are you doing this? And one thing I know is that everybody has different reasons. Is it to show off? Is that your reason why you're trying to do it? Is it trying to be one up from the Joneses? Are you keeping up with the Joneses? Not just keeping up with the Joneses, even exceeding the Joneses. Are you trying to buy a huge house that you can impress all your friends with? And so on. So I think it's really important to understand the why that's driving your decision or desire to get to build wealth. And because your drive, your desire, your why will really determine your ability to stay on track. Because you're going to go through some ups and downs. We'll go through some challenges on this journey. I've been through them. And in fact, I got a call today from one of my students. I helped him address one of the questions that he had on his properties. And so I mean, there's some uncertainty on this journey to financial independence. If your why is not strong enough, believe me, you're going to get despondent. You're going to get sort of, question why you're doing this, and you may decide not to do it. So, why build wealth is it's a really important thing. Why are you doing this for? And again, it was clear for me in my situation. I wanted to my story. I was working, I had a regular job, and I wanted the ability whereby I didn't have to go to the job. And I mean, I enjoyed what I was doing. I was getting paid quite well, but I wanted more control of my time. I had a lot of travel, stuck in traffic, travel overseas, travel around the country. And after a while, I just kind of got tired of that thing. So I wanted a way out. And luckily, I chose real estate earlier on, and kept my properties as opposed to selling them. So that was the why for me. And better control of my time, and essentially financial freedom. Okay, so for a lot of people, the ability to break out of what we call the rat race is very important to them. You know what the rat race is? We had I think Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. He kind of talks about the rat race, and how a lot of people kind of get stuck in there. We work hard at our jobs to earn money, and then when we earn the money, we go out and spend the money. And so we have to then go out and work harder again to get a promotion, to get more money, and then we spend more money, and then we work harder again to get more money, and then spend the more money. So it's like a evolving, cycle, and it's really hard to get out of it once you're in it. Okay, so a lot of people want to get out of that rat race, and and have better control of their time and their what they want to do. But you may say, well, Dr. Joe, I'm happy with the way things are, and that's okay. If that's the case, then maybe this is not, maybe, your drive may not be to quit your job, and that's okay. Maybe you just want to have one or two properties, build wealth, or have some passive income, and you enjoy what you're doing, and you want that comfort, and knowing that every 2 weeks, every month, you're going to get your paycheck. So I'm not saying that you have to quit your job, because it's not necessary. It may, you may not even want to do that. It may not even be practical. Okay, so everybody has a different reason, but the bottom line is that you need to understand what your right drive is, and what your motivations are. I know I was talking to my sister today. She lives in England, and she called me today, and we had a good conversation. She was talking about the Queen's funeral. She went down there, did all that sort of British monarchy stuff and so on. So we had a good conversation, and while we were talking, I said to her, one of the things which I've learned is that, because when the way we were raised, and was probably like most people here, you go to school, you work hard, you get good grades, you go to college, and you get a job, and you work that job until you retire. And that's how we were raised, and probably how you were raised, probably how most of us were raised, is that sort of that path. And I was just telling her, I think looking back now, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think something was missing, was that we can't rely on our job. We can't rely on somebody else to be the captain of our ship, and to because we could lose our job. Life happens. Something may occur tomorrow. And if we don't have a plan B, if we don't have control of our destiny, then you're really at the mercy of other people. So what we agreed, my sister and I, was that I want to build wealth within our family. Her children, I got a brother and another sister, help educate their children, and our network, such that hopefully we can start building wealth within the whole family network, and so on, because I think it is important. So that's something that we discussed, and that's something which I want to do. So, but again, that's just me. I want to encourage people to build wealth, and not be totally reliant on other people for your destiny. So therefore, we have it. Okay, so you got your why together, and the issue now is, what's it called? What is this thing called freedom number? Okay, and how do you actually calculate this thing called freedom number? So that's what I'm going to talk about next. What is this financial freedom? And so financial freedom, from my perspective, is when the amount of passive income that you're getting addresses or takes care of your daily living expenses. Okay, so therefore you're not you have a bit more control in terms of what you do. Okay, and so those investments can come in different forms. We're all familiar with real estate. There could be securities. I was listening to a podcast today where I think the host was really into the stock market and securities. He was talking about that. So, I mean, there are people who believe in that. I mean, I'm not really a great fan of securities, but this person was. And they were talking about how you can achieve financial independence through various securities and, an investment that way. And so there's different ways whereby you can get sort of financial, your number. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to quit your job. No, it just means that you have to have a certain amount of income in order to take care of your needs. Okay, so let's talk about that then, in terms of how do we calculate this financial freedom number. Okay, that's gonna be the core of the discussion today. So before we get to that, I want to make sure that we, at least I say that there are, on this journey, okay, from wherever you are to wherever you're going on this financial independence journey, it's a series of steps. Okay, it's almost like climbing the mountain or climbing a ladder. Okay, it's it's very difficult to go to the top of the ladder if you've only got no rungs, no steps. Okay, you can't just go from the bottom to the top. Okay, or you can if you're pretty good at aerobics you're pretty physically fit and so on, you can do that. You can jump from the bottom to the top. But in reality, for most people, we have to go through a series of steps. Okay, we go to the first step, second step, third steps, and so forth. So there are levels of financial, steps that you can go through in order to get on this journey. Okay, and so there. So I want to kind of break it down into different levels or steps. Okay, and I think everyone's heard of Tony Robbins, and he developed a framework. Okay, and he calls it levels of financial dreams. Okay, levels of financial dreams, and he kind of broke it down in terms of your financial freedom into 5 different steps. Okay, and I'll go through these in a bit more detail. So step 1, he calls that financial security. Okay, that's the lowest point, financial security. Okay, then it goes to level 2, which he calls financial vitality or vitality. Tomato. Financial vitality. How about that? Vitality. Okay, let me say vitality. Okay, step 3 is financial independence, and that's third. That's the third step on this journey. And step 4, this is what he calls financial freedom. Okay, and then step 5 is what he calls absolute financial freedom. Okay, so there's 5 steps on this journey that was developed by Tony Robbins, and he calls it the levels of financial dreams. So I'm going to kind of go through each of those. So let me just summarize again. You got level 1, which is financial security; level 2, which is financial vitality; level 3, financial independence; level 4, which he calls financial freedom; and level 5, which he calls absolute financial freedom. Okay, so that's what he's going to do. So you don't have to go from 1 to or 0 to 5 today or tomorrow. It takes time. Okay, but depending on where you are and what your goals are, you may be satisfied with level 1. You may not need to or want to go to level 2, or you may want to go to level 3 and so forth, so that you don't have to go from 1 to 5. It just depends on you, your commitment, and how much time and effort you want to, apply on this journey. The more time and effort that you apply, the more chances are that you're going to go to the different next tier and so on. So that's what we're going to talk about. So it's sort of the levels of these levels on this journey towards financial freedom. Okay. So so let's talk about level 1, which we're going to call financial security. Okay. So when I talk about financial security, I don't mean that, I don't know, you're going to buy an island in the Caribbean, or you're going to buy a yacht, or buy a, I don't know, baseball team or basketball team or soccer team. No. Level 1 is just a financial freedom or financial security. Okay. Is when we are just have enough money to take care of our basic needs. Okay. Take care of our basic needs. So if you can generate enough passive income whereby you can take care of your basic financial needs, then you are at what he calls financial security level. You're at level 1. So what are these basic financial needs? If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, we had Scott Trench, and we talk about different levels towards financial freedom, and we talked about the biggest expenses that most people have. So in level 1, financial security, we are trying to take care of the most basic needs that we all have to incur. Things like rent or our mortgage, okay, shelter, food, transportation. Maybe if we have a house or apartment, we have to pay utilities, okay? And then obviously you got to pay insurance for your vehicle or whatever. So these are the basics that we all need. So the question is for you, what's the number? How much is those amount to? The rent, the mortgage, the food, the transportation, the utilities, the insurance. So if you can generate enough income, passive income, to take care of all those, then you've reached level 1 financial security. Okay. So what you do is you want to add up all your housing costs, your food costs, your transportation costs, and so on, add it together, multiply it by 12, and that will give you how much money you need per year, okay, in order to achieve financial security. Okay, it's not that complicated. It's just a matter of taking tabs on what's your housing cost, food, transportation, utilities, insurance, add it all together, times it by 12, and that's how much passive income you need to generate in order to achieve level 1 financial independence or financial freedom. He calls it financial security. Okay, so that's what it's all about for level 1. Okay, it's about achieving financial security, and you can do this depending on where you are on this journey, how your expenses are. If you can contain your expenses, if you can sort of reduce your housing costs, maybe do house hacking, or you can get a roommate, or you can get a side hustle, or you can, from the hobbies that you have, okay, you can see if you can turn those hobbies into, some kind of, I don't know, financial generation. Then it's possible to achieve that level 1 security in a relatively short period of time. Okay, it's not impossible. It's definitely doable that you and I can do. Okay, so that's what he calls level 1 financial freedom. It's called financial security. Okay, so you add all your housing, transportation, food, insurance, and those costs, times it by 12, and that's how much you need annually in order to reach level 1. So let's go to level 2 then. Level 2, he calls that financial vitality. Okay, and this one is going to be a little bit. It's level 2, so it's a little bit higher. So now that we reached financial security, we've got our basics done. The next thing we want to look at is what are some of the other expenses that we incur in terms of day to day. What are some of the indulgences? I'm not saying, go crazy, but, you may want to have a little, enjoy life a little bit here and there, maybe go out, get some clothes every now and then. You get tired of just wearing the same clothes. You may want to eat somewhere, maybe want to go to the cafe or treat some people. So financial level 2 is that now it's you've taken care of your basics, and you want to maybe incorporate some indulgences. Okay, and so therefore you're going to need to add together what are those indulgences, how much it costs. So how much do you spend on clothing, for example, on a monthly basis? How much do you spend on dining and entertaining? How much do you spend on other indulgences? It could be, I don't know, gym memberships, massage and spas, and eating out with friends. How much do you spend on that on a monthly basis? So I would estimate what that is, divide that by 2, so half of that. Okay, and then you add that to the financial security number that we did in the previous exercise: your transportation, your accommodation, shelter, insurance, and so on. And if you add all that together, then that's your financial vitality number. Okay, so in level 1, we kind of just took care of the basic needs. In level 2, we are, we kind of have a little splurge. And so how much do we need to have raised in financial, in passive income to be able to take care of those things? And that's what we call level 2 financial vitality. Okay, everyone's following me so far? Give me some feedback. Let me know how you think. But again, don't get ready soon. We're going to have some questions very shortly. So that is your financial vitality number. Okay, the first one was a financial security number, and this one is your financial vitality number. Okay, so that's level 2. Then we may want to go to level 3. Now, level 3, this is what he calls, this is Tony Robbins now, he calls this financial independence. Okay, so what is your financial independence? What's it called? Number. And this is the amount of money that you need to completely be independent of work. Okay, it's a total number that you need to be able to quit your job, leave your job, leave your employer. Okay, and to be live, and live the lifestyle that you currently have. Okay, so what is that number? Obviously, you know what, how much you're making, and therefore, if you kind of take that number, and that's how much you need to make on an annual or monthly basis in order to reach financial independence. Okay, that's the passive income that you're going to need from your investments or for your real estate holdings or whatever in order to reach financial independence. Okay, I wanted that. That was a driver for me. I got through to level 1, I went through level 2, but level 3 was a lot more difficult because it's slightly higher. And so, in order for me to reach financial independence, I had to sort of fast track my real estate investment activities. I had to start buying more properties. I had to minimize expenses, my personal expenses, my lifestyle expenses. We did the house hacking, in order to reduce our housing costs. I decided that the biggest expense for me, in terms of the real estate, was turnover. So I wanted to drive those turnover costs, and that's the reason I kind of got into the Section 8 model, and that's the reason why I decided I wanted to make sure my tenants are happy, because if they're happy, they're probably not going to leave, and therefore I can reduce those huge expenses related to turnover and vacancies. Okay, so that's the strategy I use on this journey towards financial independence, level 3. Okay, so it's enough money from your savings and investments whereby you can equal or exceed what you're making on your job. Okay, it's pretty easy to calculate. You know how much you're making, and the issue becomes what's it going to take for my passive or financial investments to equal that. It's not easy. It's not something that can, despite what the gurus tell you, it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. Okay, it may take a few years. In my case, it took 15 years from when I bought my first house to when I was able to do that. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of plodding along. But I think knowing what I know now, I could have probably fast tracked that a lot more quickly. So that's the sort of level 3, which is sort of a financial independence level. Then he goes to financial or level 4, which is, this is what he calls a financial freedom. Okay, this is financial freedom as described by Tony Robbins in his book. So let me just give you, in his definition of financial freedom, is having enough income to afford all of the needs, your needs, and luxuries you have now without working. And he adds a little caveat to this, plus 2 or 3 bigger luxuries. Okay, so he says you got to take care of your current needs. That's level 1 and level 2, and plus also you've got to have additional income to take care of your total needs. Plus also some, he calls it luxuries. One person's luxury may not be another person's luxury, so it's all kind of relative. And so, what income do you need from your investments and real estate to be able to reach that point? How much money do you want? Okay, what do you want to do with this money? Do you want to travel? Do you want to buy bigger homes? Do you want more consumer items or whatever? What do you want? Do you want to even do community service or spend more time giving and doing good? And similar to what I want to do, build money, yes, build wealth, but also do good as well. So what is it for you? And therefore, how do you calculate this financial freedom number, level 4? The way he describes it essentially is you add your luxuries. Okay. So luxury item number 1, remember we talked about what the definition of financial freedom is. It's being able to take care of your needs plus some luxuries. Now, luxuries could be a car, it could be travel, or whatever your luxury is. It's all relative. So you need to kind of factor that in. How much is it going to cost if I was to get a new vehicle, a nice vehicle, if you consider that to be a luxury, or do more travel, and so on. So you add these luxury items together, and then you allocate a certain amount of money for each of these luxuries. on a monthly or whatever basis, and then you times it by 12, and that gives you how much money you need, and you add it to all the other numbers that you got in level 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3 to get this financial freedom number. So that's your financial freedom number. It's it's really the amount of money you need such that you can take care of your basic needs, and also some explosion money, but also taking care of your ability to have some luxuries. Okay, so that's level 4 on this journey that's described by Tony Robbins. Okay, so let me just, before I get to level 5, let me just make sure I can kind of describe each of these levels on this journey. Okay, we talked about level 1. Let's have a look. Get my notes out here. Hopefully this is good. And we talked about level 1, which is financial security. Level 2, which he calls financial vitality. Level 3, financial independence. And level 4, which is financial freedom. Okay, and so on. So then you get to level 5, which he calls absolute financial freedom. Absolute financial freedom. This is a quirky description or definition as defined by Tony Robbins. But essentially say absolute financial freedom is enough money to do whatever you want, whenever you want, without working, without even thinking about money. Okay. Money, you're making money in your sleep. You don't worry about money. You're just generating money. Okay. You got absolute freedom to do whatever you want to do. And money is not a problem. Okay. So that's what he calls absolute financial freedom, which is level 5 on his ladder or his scale. And that's an interesting one. I don't think I'm not really interested in level 5. That's just not who I am. But it could be for you. You may want to have so much money you don't have to worry about it. I mean, that's your absolute. So you want all your luxury items. You want to be able to get a jet. Okay, I can take care. I don't have to worry about that. I want to give $50,000 away to this charity. No problem. You've got total absolute financial freedom. That's what he means by that. Okay. And for most people, as I said before, it's a whole nother level. And I'll talk about that in a second. But that's what he calls it, absolute financial freedom. And really, you have no worries, no cares about money at all. And so the question now becomes, okay, Dr. Joe, you've described these 5 levels, which is what I've just done. Financial security, level 1, financial vitality, level 2, financial independence, level 3, financial freedom, level 4, and absolute financial freedom, which is level 5. Okay, so so the question becomes, which one is it for you? Where are you on that scale? I don't think it's realistic to go from 0 or 1 to 5. And I mean, you may not even want to go to a 5. I told you, I'm not really interested in being at a level 5. Why? Because it's not that important to me. Okay, I'm comfortable. I'm doing okay. I don't need to have gazillions of dollars. It's just not the amount of effort and time and sacrifices that I would have to make to get to that. I just don't think it's worth it for me anyway. Okay, now that's just me. But you may be different. It's almost like training to be what's the analogy? You can be healthy, okay, by exercising, eating well, getting sleep, and so forth, or you could be Olympic, athlete. Okay, so I kind of equate level 5 with being an Olympic athlete. Now, if you want to just live a comfortable life and just sort of be healthy, eat good, and so on, that's okay. That's level 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, but if you want to be an Olympic athlete, then that's a whole nother level of training, commitment, sacrifice, to take it to. And not everybody's okay with that. Some people will, some people won't. So again, it's you choose where you want to end up on this journey. I don't want to be working all the time. I want to be able to spend some time with family, friends, travel, and I don't need gazillions of dollars to do that. Okay, I keep my expenses low, and that's the other thing to this thing, is that if you keep your expenses low, then you can hit your financial freedom targets a lot earlier because your expenses are lower, and therefore the amount of income that you need is lower as well. Okay, so if you can, it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you can keep your what's it called, expenses down, then you don't need as much on the income side. Okay, so that's pretty much where we are here. So again, I'm going to go down to Q&A very shortly. So if you got some questions, please get them lined up, and we can talk about anything to do with real estate investing, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you, and so on. So line up the questions, but essentially that's the thing, is that your freedom number is not that difficult to calculate. It's just a matter of understanding what level you are at, what's the income that you need, and for that level, and then that's it. And then once you've got that, you've got your freedom number for that level, and then you go to the next level, and then the next level, and so forth. So depending on the level that you're at, will determine what's your freedom number. There's not just one, but it's a stepping stone. It takes time. It takes step 1, step 2, step 3, and then you'll get there, and so on. So be flexible. Life happens. You can change that, and then what's it called? But stay focused on your goal. Stay focused on the journey, and and so on. So I think the money master. This is from George. He said that so put your questions together, and let's see if I can try to hit as many of those. I think this is from George. He said that the money master the game. Yes, absolutely great book. It is a very good book, and that's also another thing which I think is important for all of us on this journey, is that we always need to educate ourselves, be in a learning mode, because I'm always learning. I'm always trying to strive to better myself. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of blogs, articles, and when I work out, I listen to stuff, because there's always more to learn, and I kind of enjoy it, and so on. So okay, let's have a look. So get your questions together, and I'll be more than happy to, because normally what happens is that we get all the questions towards the end, and we don't have enough time. So if you got some questions, anything to do with real estate, please fire them over, and I'll try to get to them as part of today's live stream, and so on. Let's have a look. Okay, George is just curious, how did you finance your first property? That one, I'll answer that question in a couple of ways. My very, very first property, and I'll also do my second property. Okay, so the very, very first property that I purchased, and I didn't know what I was doing. I met some guy at this RIA in Washington D.C., a real estate investor association meeting. I met some guy, and I bought some guru course and about no money down, and he offered to sell me a house in Washington, no money down. So to answer your question, it was a no money down deal, and I just took over his mortgage. So he had an existing loan in place, and he allowed me to assume that mortgage, and that's what I did. I think I paid in a couple of dollars for his equity, but I essentially took over this guy's mortgage. Now, the reason why he was so keen for me to take over his house and buy the house, because I found out later on that there were some tenants there who hadn't paid him for several months, and they were the tenants from hell. And so he was trying to get rid of this thing, and I was just straight off the boat from England, and so he saw me as a sucker, and so I bought the house, only to find out it was probably the property from hell. Anyway, so I bought this house, and I found out all those problems later on. Anyway, so the second house I think is probably more interesting, George. So the second house I bought, so I turned this nightmare around on the first experience, and the second house I bought was a traditional. I lived in that house, so it was a traditional. It wasn't. I don't know if it was an FHA or a conventional. I forgot now. So long ago, but it was a home. It was an owner occupant property. So the amount of down payment I needed was a lot less than if it was an investment property. Okay, so I took out a regular loan. And I think at that time the interest rates were a little bit higher. It's like 10 or 11 or 12%. So I mean, it makes today's rates look so attractive. So around that time, this was probably the early 90s. The rates were around about 10, 11%, I think it was. And so I got a owner occupant property. Sorry, owner occupant financing for this property in Washington, D.C. And then the issue becomes, well, how in the world am I going to pay? I had a regular job, and how am I going to pay this mortgage? And so on. So at that time, this whole concept of house hacking, hadn't been defined. It was just, hey, I got this mortgage. I don't want to pay it all by myself, and I need some other people here who can help me pay this mortgage. Okay, so how do I do that? And so I specifically bought that house because it had a basement and also there's 3 bedrooms upstairs. So the basement was what we call an English basement. It had an entrance on the front and also had an entrance or an exit in the back. So I could see that potentially as a rental unit. We could possibly turn the basement into an apartment. It wasn't an apartment before, but it had the potential. I had the foresight to say, hey, I could generate some money from this house. And that's one of the drivers. That's one of the reasons why I bought it. And then I was a single guy at that time. And so I decided, well, okay, I can live in one of the rooms upstairs and maybe rent the other 2 rooms out. So that's essentially what I did. I bought that house through owner occupant financing. So therefore the down payment wasn't as high as if it was an investment property. And so I was able to scrape together the down payment for this house. And once I bought the house, I then made the basement into an apartment, and then I rented the other 2 rooms upstairs. And therefore, essentially, I was living in that house for free. In fact, I was making money from that house. So again, it's what we call house hacking now, but at that time it didn't have any name for it. I just say, well, how can I live in this house for free, or for minimum? How can I drive my housing cost down? And so that's what we did there. So as a result of that, my housing cost was essentially zero, and so therefore I still had a job, and therefore the money that I was making from my job, because my biggest expense to housing was essentially zero, I was able to save more money from my job. And therefore I saved and saved and saved. And then ultimately I bought house number 2. Okay. So essentially what it is that I drove down my expenses. Okay. I lived a low profile. I wasn't extravagant. I didn't have to impress anybody. Well, not so much that. It's just that, it wasn't necessary. It wasn't important to me to have fancy this, fancy that, and so on. So I kind of kept my living expenses as low as possible. I was disciplined in terms of saving money. So therefore, the money that I made from my job, rather than blowing the money, I saved it. And I kept on saving it until I was able to have enough money set aside through savings for my third house. Okay. So I then bought my third house, and and I still kept a low profile. I still kept my expenses low. And that third house was able to, the rent was able to cover the mortgage, and it's a rental property. And then I kept on going from there. So I kept my expenses low, saved as much as I could, and then bought house number 4, 5, and 6, and so forth, until I reached the point whereby I went through level 1, financial security, because essentially my housing costs were so low. I was able to achieve financial security on that ladder a lot faster. Okay, in fact, I probably reached it very early. And then I was able to go to level 2, which is financial vitality. So I was able to take care of my basic living expenses, and then plus some more, because I kept my expenses low, and I tried to maximize the rent wherever I lived. Okay, so I was able to get to level 2. Shortly thereafter that. I mean, I didn't know about these level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But in hindsight, that's what I was doing, without really knowing what I was doing. And then I was able to reach financial independence, and ultimately through buying more properties, maximizing rent, using Section 8, reducing turnover, taking care of my tenants, putting systems in place, processes in place, having the team in place, developing relationships with different people. I mean, all of that stuff was allowed me to go to level 3, which is sort of financial independence. And I was able to leave my job. And then I was able to therefore go from level 3. And that took about 15 years from the first property I bought to that point. And then I went to level 4, which is where I am right now. Okay. Which is financial freedom. I'm not really striving for absolute financial freedom. Maybe one day, but it's just at this point, it's not that important to me. I think I'm okay. But I will still keep on buying. In fact, I had a meeting today with the bankers, and so we had a good discussion about some strategies in terms of acquiring more properties. They're extending credit to me, and so on. So that's essentially the answer to your question, George, which is just curious, how did you finance your first property? So I kind of went into more detail, not just my first property, but my whole strategy on how I went up the financial freedom ladder, and and how I was able to determine my freedom number, and how I was able to transition from full-time employment through and then now where I live essentially off investment income and so on. So guys, put your questions down. I'm more than happy to answer them, and let's have a look what's going on here. Love you, Dr. Joe. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Okay, so let me just so put your questions together in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them and so on. I think we've got a few more minutes. So let me talk about a kind of related topic. Let's have a look. Let's go to another question. George. Okay. George he's putting the questions in, so bring him in. If you got some questions, let me throw it into the chat box, and I'll see if I can answer. Okay, when it comes to the Burr properties, was there ever a point where you wanted to buy a property for yourself and not making it a liability? Okay, let's have a read that one again. When it comes to the Burr properties, okay, that's the buy, renovate, refinance. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance. Those Burr properties. Was there a point where you wanted to buy a property for yourself? I assume that means a house to live in, as opposed to an investment property, and not making it a liability. Okay, liability. Okay, now a liability. That's I'm going to see if I can try to what's it called? Understand the question fully, George. In the Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki model, there are assets and liabilities, and he determines an asset is something that feeds you, and a liability is something that eats you, or something that's taking money out of your pockets. Okay, so one's putting money in your pocket, and one's taking money out of your pocket. So technically, if you have your primary residence, because you're not generating income from that, because you're living there, technically, in his definition, that's a liability. Okay, although it's an asset to most people, he sees it as a liability. An investment property, which is cash flowing, he sees that as an asset because it's putting money in your pocket. Okay, so that's how he defines it. I don't always agree with that definition. I don't think it's as simple as that. But if you agree with that, and let's just assume that you are, because real estate is an asset if you buy it right. Real estate is an asset if you buy it in the right location. Real estate is an asset if you can generate income from that continuously. Okay, otherwise it's a liability. It doesn't. It can break you just as quickly as it can make you. And as the market shifts, we'll find out if a lot of people will be broken by real estate. So anyway, so let's go back to the question. When it comes to BRRRR, is there a point where you wanted to buy a property for yourself? I mean, I was buying again and not making it a liability. The way, if it's not, again, George, you're going to have to clarify that if that's okay. But the way I see it is that if you're going to go into real estate investing, then you better know why you're buying this house or this property. Okay, is it for a cash flow? Whereby every month, every whatever it is, you're going to have monthly cash flow, or are you buying it for growth or appreciation potential? Okay, you're looking to buy this asset today, and hopefully in X number of years from now, it's going to be worth more. Okay, so you may or may not get enough cash flow, but you're banking on the fact that it's going to appreciate in value. Okay, so I think that's really, really important. I'm a believer that if you can get both, then strive for both. Depending on where you are on your journey, if your cash flow needs are being met elsewhere, i.e., through your job or through other investments, then you may not need as much cash flow from your property. Okay, and then you can be patient and let time work its way to develop growth. Okay, so if you are okay with that, and looking back now, I am so glad that I bought some properties in certain locations because they're just appreciated in value, and the amount of money I made through appreciation dwarfs the amount of money that I made through the cash flow. Okay, I think that the real money is the appreciation, and not all areas appreciate the same. They don't, and so if you want growth, then you want to buy in areas whereby you're more likely to achieve that growth, because some areas will, even some neighborhoods or some zip codes will grow differently than other areas. So, decide on which way you want to go, develop your criteria, and then if it makes sense, then you decide to acquire. Make sure you get the right financing in place. And if you're going to do a buy and hold type model, make sure you screen well to get good tenants, and make sure you manage those tenant relationships such that that delta between when you purchase the property to when you exit that property is going to be successful. That is the difficult part, and that's the part which most people I don't think fully grasp, is the importance of having those systems between when you acquire the property to when you ultimately exit and sell that property. That's where the tenants come in. And that's where the whole tenant screening, tenant relationship, tenant management, property management becomes absolutely paramount, and so on. So let's have a look. So hopefully I answered that question, George. If I didn't, you may want to clarify. If other people got some questions, please put them in, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer those questions. As I mentioned earlier on, let me just do a little sidebar. Earlier this week, I selected a tenant for my my property, the one that I had a tenant who vacated a few weeks ago, and so we got the house ready. We I did some basic marketing, and I was overwhelmed with the response. There's a need here for a house. Anyway, the bottom line is I selected the family on Sunday. In fact, I went to their home, did a home visit, and did several home visits and selected this family. It was just a great experience. It's just a wonderful opportunity to help somebody. This family was extremely happy about the opportunity to live in this home, which I own. and I recorded their, when I mentioned it to them. It's just a very, very, it's just, I don't know, it's just good to know that you're helping somebody else, helping this family move from where they are to a new environment. They're so appreciative. They're so looking forward to it. You made a huge difference in their lives, and they're just so excited. And so they went over to the house on Monday to do a little walkthrough again, figure out who's going to get which bedroom, and can the sofas fit here, will the bed fit here, and so on. It was just nice, just spending time with this family, and just knowing that you made a huge difference, not just in the parents' life, but in the children's life, and just the opportunity for them to be in a better environment, a safer environment, better schools, and just it was just a very, very nice experience. So it was just nice. And I did a video, so hopefully I'll put the video out there for everyone to see later on. Okay, let's have a look. Sorry, I meant, was there ever a point where you wanted a property for personal? Oh yeah, for personal residence. Yeah. So okay, now I get it. So yeah. So after I bought my second property where I lived in, and I just kept on doing the house hack strategy, and ultimately I bought more properties, and then once we got married, my wife, she wasn't too keen on, living in a house with roommates. So we ultimately left that house and went to another house where, currently live. And that's a larger house. And we didn't need all the space. And so what we did essentially was continue it was a primary residence. We lived there, but it had a large basement, similar to the other thing. Maybe it's just me. We agreed that I'll make the basement into an apartment, and that's where we what's it called? That's what we did. We did another house hack on my primary residence, so we kept our housing expenses low, saved money, and ultimately, as my business grew, I made the basement where we live now as my office. So yes, I did buy a personal residence later on, another personal residence, and it was technically, it wasn't a liability. It was a liability because the rent that we got from the basement didn't cover the entire mortgage. I think it covered about half of it. So in Robert Kiyosaki's world, it was a liability, but it wasn't a major liability because we were able to generate income from that one. But yeah, I mean, it's important to have a primary residence versus rented, and it's just up to you how you want to pay for that. Do you want to pay it out of your pocket, or do you want somebody else to pay it for you? Okay, let's keep going. This is from Cars and Crypto. I'm in New York. I cannot afford to buy an investment property in my area. What should I look for in other areas to determine if the area is good for growth? Ty. I'm in New York. I cannot afford to buy an investment property in my area. Well, I don't know if I agree with that, Ty, or Cars and so on. No, I think it's Cars and Crypto. I live in Washington, D.C. area. It's very expensive here. If you drive 45 minutes, you're in a completely different market. And it's where it's more affordable, more cheaper, and so on. So you don't have to say, well, I'm leaving, I'm going to catch a plane to another area altogether. You may be able to just drive another hour, and you're not too far away from home, and it could be a total affordable market, and so on. So again, I don't know which part of New York you're in, but that's something that you may want to consider. So anyway, if you're going to go out of town or to a different area, what would you look at? I would speak to people who are knowledgeable of the area. You want to speak to agents, real estate agents, maybe property managers of that area that you're considering, and they'll give you some cues about what's going on in the locality. So to me, based on my experience, the absolute key is several things. One is jobs. Are there jobs in that general vicinity? Because if there are, then there's a pretty good chance that people want to live there. If there are no jobs, or a lot of jobs are leaving, then it's going to be a decline in market. So, you want an area whereby there are jobs nearby, and hopefully a diverse number of or types of industry. So it's not totally dependent on one type of company or a company town. Or so if that company goes bust, then the whole town goes down with it. So have strive for geographical diversity, industrial diversity, economic diversity, I suppose. And then population. Are people moving in or people moving out? You know, because real estate is very much dependent on those dynamics. So you want to kind of go to a place whereby you know, there's population growth. So if I don't know, I will look at those characteristics of the area, and then, you know, you can then make a decision whether I should go with this general area, and then you'll speak to your real estate agents, the brokers, property managers, and so on, who will tell you neighborhoods you know, are more attractive, which neighborhoods, which areas, which parts of the zip code are on the path of growth, and you want to try and buy in the path of growth. So hopefully as time goes by, the property will increase in value. So you know, so again, there's several different things. If you're not familiar with that area, there are people who are. Take the time and effort to reach out to them, speak with them, network with them, and develop relationships, and you know, and then hopefully that will start the journey in terms of where to put your money. The only downside I have is that if it's too far away, is that you're totally, and again, this is what, you know, the gurus, you know, you're totally dependent on other people, and that's okay. But I don't know if I want to totally rely on other people. I want to be, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that you know, what's it called? Those people looking out for your interests. Thanks, Dr. Joe. I've gone from seeing investments as cash flow to being able to house a lot of people in need. There you go. Thanks a lot, George, for the kind words. Okay, Fedora. Dr. Joe, can you explain the process to evaluate a basement candidacy to convert into a 1 or 2 rooms? This is from Fedora. So I think she had a follow-up question, which was example egress windows and height. So there are, every jurisdiction will have some code requirements for a basement bedroom. For, you know, some places you cannot even rent in the basements. Some areas you don't even have basements. So assuming your area does allow basement rentals or bedrooms in basements, then typically the building codes are as follows. The basement has to have a certain height. And generally, if you can stay above 7 feet or higher, then you are good. Technically, it's 6'10". But I would just say if you can go with 7 foot, if your basement height is 7 feet or higher, then you are generally okay. That's number one criteria. Second criteria is what we call egress. Egress means that in the event of an emergency, a fire or flooding or whatever it is, emergency, there has to be 2 ways to exit the unit. Okay, either through a door or, you know, if it's got 2 exits, like one in the front, one in the back, that's good. If it doesn't, then the other exit has to be a window. So the bedroom has to have an egress window, a window that's large enough whereby in the event of an emergency, somebody can get out. And so those little basement windows that you sometimes see in apartments, that's not good enough. Okay, it's not big enough, so that may not count. So there's egress considerations. Then the third one is you've got to have light and ventilation. Okay, so you got to have natural light and ventilation going into the unit. So if it doesn't have a window, or if it has a window that doesn't open, that may not count. So you can have a door that leads to the outside, which is egress, but it doesn't have light and ventilation. Okay, so light and ventilation, egress, height, and you know, the other big one is it's got to have a closet, a place where you can store your clothes. So they're at the high level, the requirements of a bedroom in the basement. Hopefully that helps. There are lots of more, you know, detailed ones, but that's see, all these questions come at the end when it's time to wrap up. You see, I think that next week we're going to have another guest, and you need to start asking the questions earlier because I always run out of time. And like I'm going to run out of time, I got a bunch of questions which I'm not going to be able to answer. But let me go to the last question. What are the Section 8 tenant laws as far as eviction if needed? I live in Maryland, by the way. There are no such thing as Section 8 laws. Section 8 essentially follows the laws of the jurisdiction where the property is located. So if you're in Maryland, then you have to follow Maryland law if you want to evict somebody. If you're in Washington, D.C., you have to follow the Washington, D.C. laws. If you're in Virginia, if you're in California, if you're in Ohio, you've got to follow the local laws or the state laws for that jurisdiction. So you just have to follow, you have to understand what the laws are. The other thing in Section 8 is that if you're going to take action against a tenant, then you have to notify the what's it called, the housing authority as well. So you're supposed to give them a copy of all the notices, the legal notices that you give to your tenants, and so on. So it is now 8:01. And I think I'll wrap it up now. I know there's some questions which I didn't have time to go through, but again, I hope today was good. Now we all know about financial freedom numbers. We know the 5 levels of financial freedom numbers: financial security, financial vitality, financial independence, financial freedom, and then absolute financial freedom. That's what we covered today. Next, we're going to have a special guest. It's going to be kind of an edgy topic next week. It's kind of, some people may feel it uncomfortable, but hey, we're going to go there anyway. So we've got a great guest next week. I'll give you some more details a bit later on. Again, this is Dr. Joe on this Wealth Wednesday closing out. Hopefully today was good. Hopefully you learned something. That's my goal, is to encourage you, motivate you such that you can take action towards your financial independence journey. Now that you know your financial freedom number, next thing is action. Let's get on with it. Let's make it happen, and so on. So until next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I will see you then. I think the week after, I will be in San Diego. I'm going to be a speaker, one of the speakers at the BP Con 22 Bigger Pockets conference in San Diego. So if you're going to be there, please say hi to me. Definitely like to network with you, and so on. So San Diego in October the 2nd through October the 5th, the Bigger Pockets. And I think I'm going to go to the Caribbean later on in October. I'm going to do more travel. I want to enjoy life. Hey, and so forth. So, okay, you too can do this. And I want to help you on your journey. But also, you can make money, and you can also do good as well. Make sure you do good. Okay, my friends. So I will see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Have yourself a wonderful evening and a great rest of the week. Take care. Bye for now.